Yes, my queen. I'm afraid the situation is very serious indeed. Yes. Yes. Well, here's the situation. Apparently, one of the vampires of your clan, a rather high-ranking one, decided to perform the Van Buren test on their human familiar. Oh yes, my queen, I am actually aware of Van Buren. Yes. 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 As usual, the 4 trusted actors who administer this test were brought in. They do an excellent job of pretending to be vampire hunters. And the human familiar is assigned a task. Far from home, he or she is then kidnapped by these hunters and then usually mildly tortured. After being informed that the hunters are aware of this individual's status as a familiar, and usually, as you know, the familiar is mildly tortured for a few days, and the actors pretending to be vampire hunters, they try to get the familiar to break, to reveal everything that they know about the clan, this location, about you, about the vampire they serve. The ones who keep their mouths shut and pass the test, well, they are then rescued. The vampire hunters are killed, or at least that's how it's made to look, and then the familiar is brought back home, where he or she are questioned about what took place and whether or not they broke under the mild torture. Of course, the vampire whom the familiar serves already knows the answer to that question. And as you know, things go very differently if the familiar breaks, especially if they break early on. But let's not discuss that unpleasantness. In this case, there was a mix-up. The familiar was given a task that involved a great deal of heavy lifting. Now, this task would be very easy for any vampire to perform, given their super strength. It would be the easiest thing in the world. However, for a human being, that's not the case. Apparently, this high-ranking vampire forgot that there is a difference between vampire strength and human strength. Their familiar went to another familiar and asked for help. A bit unusual, but certainly not something that isn't allowed. So one familiar asked another familiar for help. The two of them left together, and the wrong familiar was kidnapped. The one who was kidnapped belongs to Duchess Aranon, and she is one of the biggest, most outspoken critics against this loyalty test. Plus, her familiar has been with her for over a decade and is apparently extremely loyal. Well, it was her familiar who was accidentally kidnapped, and not mildly tortured at all, severely tortured. Somehow, he managed to escape, and when he did, apparently he was still strong enough and filled with enough rage and anger that he picked up a nearby baseball bat and, well, he used it against 3 of the 4 actors. Again, he thought they were vampire hunters. He thought they were a threat to his Duchess, to the clan, to you, to every one of us. After killing them, he burned down their hideout. And I'm not gonna lie, there is some question as to whether or not all 3 of them were dead when he burned their bodies and their hideout before escaping. Yes, he used a canister of kerosene that apparently, for some odd reason, one of the actors had brought with them. The last actor was here. Yes, here. Apparently, he was trying to make his report, and at the time was not aware of the mix-up. Well, the familiar who escaped apparently found out that the last individual was here, but he still thought the last individual was a hunter, not an actor. So he apparently stole their cheap vehicle, and in a lot of pain and somewhat crippled, although his injuries are temporary, managed to drive himself back here, where he came in through the front door, and the sight of him shocked everyone. He then announced that there were hunters inside, and this was especially concerning since there was an hour left until sunrise. So if there were hunters inside, they could simply hide for about an hour, come out, and then do what they needed to do. The thing is, the familiar wasn't sure if there was one hunter or several. Yes, my queen, that was one of the main issues. He had no idea. Is there one? Is there several? He sounded the alarm, And unfortunately, most of, well, most of the individuals here inside had no clue that this was part of a loyalty test gone wrong. And during the sweep of your home, the familiar who had been badly tortured was the one who found the last hunter. And as you know, what he did to him is practically unspeakable, but understandable given the misunderstanding of the entire situation. Yes, yes, my queen. Well, since you and I were not here, the council had to act on your behalf. The Duchess made a very empowered, impassioned speech, pleading for her familiar's life, stating that he had no clue that the test was going on, and that he had acted with the information he had in basically trying to save the clan from a group of vicious hunters. The council, thankfully, understood. Yes. Yes. They did have him come into the council room to testify on his own behalf. His left eye was swollen shut. He was limping quite badly, and at one point in time he even coughed up blood and nearly passed out on the council floor. Yes, my queen, all of that took place. The council decided to forgive the killing of the 4 actors, because again, the familiar thought they were hunters. Yes, my queen, yes. The familiar is currently in the Duchess's bedchamber, being adhered to by a couple of human doctors and the Duchess herself. Well, I hesitate to say that he'll make a full recovery. Physically, he'll be fine. Mentally, I'm not sure if he will make a full recovery. Yes, my queen, it was all very brutal. Yes. Yes. Very well, my queen. I will inform the Duchess. Yes, she'll be happy to hear that.